Hello, Karen Swain here. Today we've got a very special show for you. I have got a friend of mine who is coming online, who's an amazing psychic medium, to talk to some people in spirit, specifically the people that were involved in the Australian Bondi Junction shootings. A couple of months since that happened. It wasn't the right time to do it before now, but it is the right time. This is a new show that I'll be putting on, well, hopefully every week, where I'll be showcasing mediums, and we're doing a recording today, but you can join us live and ask some questions from the mediums if you want to speak to people that you know who are in spirit. But today, as I said, we're going to talk to people that have crossed over and the shooter from the Bondi Junction shootings a few months ago in Australia, but also we might talk to some people that were also transitioned due to the Trump assassination, the attempted assassination. So stay tuned. Look forward to the show.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello again, Karen Swain here. I'd like to introduce you to Sandra Marie, or Sandy. She likes to be called Sandy. Welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Sandy and I have been working together. She is a medium and has been for about 20 years, Sandy?
About 15, just about 15.
About 15 years, a psychic medium. But she says to me that she lives in the Bible Belt in America, and so she hasn't been very open with her abilities. And so we've been working together to get her out there, to get her more used to doing this sort of work and get her out of the psychic closet, so to speak. and this show is all a part of that. She's one of the most amazing psychic mediums I've ever met, really. And she said to me during our time together, working together, I thought we'd do more practice. And I said, well, the guides didn't think that you needed to practice because you're really good at it. But today will be a bit of practice. All right, well, let's get into it. And if you want to know more about Sandy, she has a website called Sandra Marie Medium. I'll show you that. Oh, I might show it now, actually. Shall I show it now, Sandy?
Sure.
Anyway, this is Sandy's website. Here we go. Oh, that's the bottom of it. This is Sandy's website. And you can read more about Sandy and her, how she came into this. She has been on the Wise Old Soul podcast with Lee Chandler. If you look that up on YouTube or any of the audio platforms, Sandy Feltz is her married name, and here's her website. And you can also contact her through her Facebook page. Let me show you her Facebook page. There we go. She's also on Facebook. If you want to contact Sandy, if you have any questions or you want to book a reading with her, she is available. Alrighty, let's get into today what we're going to do. So, a few weeks ago here in Sydney, Australia, just up the road from me, this is quite close to my heart because it's literally around the corner from me, there is a big shopping centre, one of Sydney's biggest shopping centres, which is quite, it's in an area which is quite sort of high class. I don't know. It's in a sort of an expensive area of Sydney. People to live here costs a fortune. It's just completely unexpected, but this amazing thing happened, this horrendous thing happened where this man went through the shopping centre with a huge knife and stabbed. I think he stabbed around 12 or 18 people. And he killed about 6 people. And today we're going to speak to a couple of those people, as well as the guy with the knife, and ask them why. What is the soul lesson? What is the purpose of this? Because so often we see on the news, this is why I call this show ATP Media, Accentuate the Positive. We see these heinous things that happen on the news. And then we hear the grieving and the upset and the trauma that everyone's going through. and they never show you the spiritual lessons involved, like what is the reason that some things happen, and you have to move to a spiritual perspective to find those reasons. So when you're a psychic, you can go and talk to people on the other side, right, Sandy, and you can say, why did this happen? What was the sole purpose? Was there a contract, a sacred contract between you and the shooter, or the perpetrator, the victim and the perpetrator? Why did all this happen? So Sandy, so we're both mediums, but I'm showcasing Sandy's ability at the moment. Who have you got online? Do you want me to sort of pick some people up? Before we started, we did a little meditation, and I saw them all waiting to speak, and it made me cry. I'm like, they're all lined up waiting to speak. Maybe we'll speak to the guy that did the stabbing first. What do you think? Do you want me to tell you his name?
I think it's Joel. I believe that I remember from the story. But he's been here. He has been patiently or impatiently waiting to talk. So he actually is saying, to start with, he's saying, thank you for giving me an opportunity, because for my family's sake, at least they'll know that my parents didn't raise a monster. But he oh, I have goosebumps. So he's thanking us for that. But so to start with, he wants to say thank you. And then he wants to say that he is sorry for all of the loss he caused. He wants us to understand that he was not thinking in his right space. His head was not in the right space at the time. It was a lifetime of imagined and real slights, insults, injustices in his mind, and it just blossomed, and he tried for so long to hold it in and keep it in, and instead of seeking help, and he fought all the help he did. I mean, anytime someone reached out to help him, he didn't need it. He shut down. He's getting very stressed. I'm going to try to get him to calm down a second. But he says it was completely his doing. His parents did not cause it. He wants to make that very clear, that his parents, they didn't cause it. And he believes that on this side, now that he's on that side, he believes that it was what he set out. And he says that when you first make your soul contracts, you understand and you agree to what's going to happen, or what lessons you want to learn, and what life goals you have for your soul. But it's like, say you go to college and you want to do journalism. You have no idea that you have to take econ for it. So he's saying he knew the lesson, the end goal lessons he was going to, but he didn't realize exactly how that was going to play out. But he understands now that he's on that side, that it was the only way it could play out. And at this point, when he took when he acted out at this point, he really felt that he had no other option. And in looking back in his life review, he realizes that there were many times that people reached out to him, giving him the opportunity to be understood, and he didn't take it. He says it is completely, he lays all the blame at his door, not his parents, not the community. He said even the things that he thought drove him to it, he realizes that it was the way he reacted to things as opposed to the way he took action. So if he had taken action instead of reacting, and from a skewed point of view, things could have been better for him. He just didn't have the wherewithal to accept that and understand that.
Yeah. When it happened a few weeks ago, I was, working with Sandy, as I said, and he started coming through then, but it was just the whole energy was just too raw to talk about it publicly back then. But because you're in America, so you hadn't heard about it at all. You didn't have any idea
Right.
who he was Oh, and I'm sure you haven't looked it up. You're too busy with your charity and with work and, kids and grandkids to look up what goes on in Australia. But I remember you said to me during our session that he felt misunderstood and ignored. And what had
Yes.
come out through the media is that he was on an online dating app looking for people to date him because he felt so lonely and ignored. And the reason that he did this thing that became so public was to get that notoriety. Now, this is speaking from his human ego, distorted mind perspective, not from
Right.
his perspective on the other side, but he was just giving you that information. And I was like, wow, you could have read it online, but you weren't reading it online because this was the profile that came out about him afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
he says that all of his life he felt he was misunderstood, but when he went through his life review, he realized that that was a position he took. It wasn't necessarily the truth. It was the position he took in life. And he said, had he understood that, it would have made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So from our perspective, it looks like the people that were killed and injured, there was a it was senseless murder. From that perspective, was it senseless or was there sort of a reason behind it from his perspective? Or maybe we'll speak to the people that were actually killed and talk to them about that. But what's he saying to you? Does he understand that now?
From his perspective, at this point, when he's gone through and he had to review his life through all those people's eyes. He
Right.
had to see the fear in all their eyes as he came at them and everything. And he believes now that had he been in his right mind and had he not felt a lifetime of injustices, a lifetime of he says abandonment, but he knows that he wasn't abandoned. It's just
He felt it.
that feeling that he created for himself. He
Right.
said now he understands there was one person there that he had made a soul connection with, that they had made a contract with, um, that they would go out together. But as for the others, if he had gotten to that person first, it might have ended there. But what your soul knows is a soul contract, and what the human mind knows is a soul contract is two different things until it's late, past the point.
Mhm.
But he says the person who had the soul contract with, and I don't know any names, but I know it was a male in this lifetime. He, as soon as those two crossed over, because uh, of course the attacker, Joel, he was a little behind him, but he said that as soon as they met up, there was a look of understanding with him. That is the only thing that allowed Joel to proceed without such. He still felt that human. Oh my God, what have I done? That horrific feeling of, oh my God, why? What did I do? But that man that he had the soul contract with, as soon as they met, there was an unspoken understanding that made him be able to go forward and face his life review.
All
And
right.
that's something I've never really thought of before, that that it takes some guts to face a life review. That didn't occur to me till he just said that. But he said that was, but the others, he said it was just horrifying to realize what he had done. And again, he takes all blame and all um, responsibility. He lays at his door, no one else's. That's his biggest message that he wants to say, the sorrow. And he wants to, it's like he is very worried that his parents, I, I, I don't know if they're being ostracized or criticized or not. And he's trying to make sure that people know that the choices he made, the way he viewed life, was his choice, not them forcing a view on him.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think that his parents will ever see this, but does he have a message for his parents?
I'm sorry that my mental instability and my life choices, if they reflect on you in any way at all, in a way that is detrimental to you guys, I am so sorry. I'm sorry for the shame that I'm sure you feel for being connected to me, and for that, I apologize that you have to feel that shame. You brought an innocent baby into this world, and he says I ruined it. Um, but he says I understand that's part of the deal I made. That's part of, so he takes full responsibility, but he does apologize and tells them, I I love you, and now that I'm on this side, I understand. I understand so much more of what I didn't get when I was in your space. And
Yeah, I know, it's touching, isn't it? Okay, let's
yeah,
let's move on a bit, and we'll stay with Joel for a minute. His name was Joel Couchy. It was all over the Australian press. So,
okay.
um, uh, after doing his life review, what has he decided to do next as far as incarnating?
He says he's taking a beat, and he's gonna pause and try to do some good work on that side. There are a lot of people that humans that choose um misunderstanding, and who can take a kind word and turn it totally around, and he's going to try to help those souls, um those people, have a little more understanding, a little more,
Yeah, people with
like,
mental health issues, like he had some mental health. They
right.
said, in the press, they said he had mental health issues. But yeah, that deep um, accentuating the negative, like that deep
Yes, exactly.
misunderstanding. Yeah, that deep
He
mis
said
so
he could
he's
take.
helping people with their mental health. Let me ask you this, Sandy,
Mhm,
and you can either ask Joel or you can ask your guides or his guides or the, spirit guides that do this.
gotcha.
How does a spirit help people who are physically incarnated with their mental health, like with their thinking, with their overcoming their negative thoughts? How does a spirit help a person who's physical?
So if they're mentally ill, okay. So how on Earth a mentally ill person can't, like in court, they could not be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, right?
Right.
So when you have a spirit team, usually your spirit team sits there and waits and is with you and tries to wait for you to ask for help. And they're once you've asked for help, they're there.
Yeah.
So with mental illness, they have a little more leeway. They can step in and kind of nudge and kind of, you know, gently persuade and try to enter a little more, um how can you say rational in a spiritual situation? um that's the word they're using, but just give them that little margin of guidance that they can, because technically it's usually that you have to ask for their guidance, and once they do, they're there, they're ready to do it. But with there's mental illness, you make the deal with your spirit team before you come here. Hey, I'm giving you permission to step in where it's needed to help if possible.
Right.
And
Yeah.
from there, then whether that mentally ill person remembers enough of that to grab it or not is completely up to the human.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're saying here on earth you have free will. And even when you make a spiritual contract with your spiritual team, that you are going to engage in mental issues while you're physically focused, that you still have the free will to reject that help. Like you'll get messages from your guides, you'll get thoughts put in your head to,
Mhm.
to think differently, but you can still argue. You can say no, no, and you can stay on that trajectory. You can get all the help you like, both spiritually and physically, and you still have a choice to reject it or not.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right. There's
yeah.
still always free will.
There's always free
Yeah.
will. Yeah. Is
Whether
it
we like it or not
whether
sometimes.
we like it or not? So he's going to hang out in the spirit world for now. All right, and help from that side. And
Mhm. And then he says that his next incarnation, he would really like to be a like a therapist, or
heal.
someone who can physically, humanly help them grasp their get a grip on
Thinking.
their sanity. Yeah, on
Yeah.
their thinking.
Yeah.
He says he feels like that will help balance out either that or be like an EMT, because then he could save some of those lives in emergency situations.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you,
That's
Joel.
He says, no, thank you.
Makes me cry. I could see them all standing there. Oh, God, this has made me cry. I didn't realize this would be so emotional. All right. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for that. All right. So we're going to go and speak to one of the victims. And the first person that comes to mind is the woman called, she was a young woman called Ash Good. She was one of the girls stabbed, and she had a 9-month-old baby. She passed away, and she begged strangers to look after her baby after losing consciousness. Yeah. Has she stepped forward? Sorry, now you're getting all upset.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all. I hadn't heard that at all. Yeah, she's here. And she's okay. So where she is fine. And she understands that it all happens for a reason. But she still has enough of that compassion and care and just genuine love. Just like, I'm going to jump around for a minute. You know, my mom always said, um, when I first started doing this, I learned that love doesn't disappear no matter what. I used to always sign on my cards, love always and forever. And I never knew exactly everything I was saying. And this mom is saying that from where she is, she understands. She understands that her baby made a contract to do this, and she made a contract to do this. And she didn't realize the way it would happen. Again, that's one of life's lovely surprises, that we never know exactly how it's going to work. But she says, the fact that she got to sorry the fact that she got to say to strangers, please watch my baby, that was her biggest message. Her biggest concern was for that baby. And she's going to do everything within her power to make sure that baby feels her love around all the time.
This is a
All the
bit much.
time. This is ridiculous, Karen.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. I didn't realize. I figured it was in Australia. It would be like far away, and I would have a moment of distance or whatever. But anyway, she says that being allowed to have those moments to actually tell people that her biggest concern was for her baby, and that baby will always get to know, when they're old enough, that her last dying thoughts were for that baby's welfare.
Yeah.
And she says, thank you for being able to, they're all grateful to have a moment to speak, to reconnect with this side so that everyone can understand. Okay. She said, okay. She said that there was a choice to be made, whether that baby left or she left. And again, you understand that motherly love is stronger than most. And she willingly took the brunt of everything so that baby would have a chance, as long as someone. Was that a baby girl?
I don't know.
I feel like there was a baby girl greatly affected, but I don't know that it belongs to her. I just feel like there's somebody worried about a baby girl.
Yeah, baby
Okay.
girl. Mhm.
Oh, it was a baby. Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway, that baby will get to know that mom's last worry, last concern was for her, and for that she be cared for and she be taken
Let
care
me
of.
ask, what was the reason that someone, in the prime of her life with a young baby would leave this world so tragically? What is the lesson there for the people left behind? Because obviously the people that have, exited the matrix, they're happy, they've gone home,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not sad. It's the ones that are
It's
left
hard
behind.
for
Mm.
us to deal with that, because I still, like, as a mom, I'm sitting there going, why would you leave your baby? And she's like, so her statement is, I knew that in a lifetime you can either be a giver or a taker. And in past times I've been a taker, and I've taken everything I could. And she said this was my time to give back. And I hope that my family understands that in this lifetime, I wanted to give I wanted to give everybody as much love and as much acceptance and as much opportunity to be as I'd taken in the past.
Interesting. So how does dying give back? Sorry, I'm stretching here.
No, no, that's all right. It's not so much the dying. It's the it's not the loss. It's the so grief. A grief is a direct measure of how much you love someone, and so it's not so much the dying that's the giving back. It's the the understanding that um the amount, the expanse of love that you could feel. And as much as it stinks to grieve that hard, um, it just proves how much you loved. And it takes, we all have human conflicts, small, big, families have all different kinds of junk that goes on. And seeing her die this young and with so much ahead of her, I think it's a wake up call for those who are left behind in her family to go,
Absolutely.
what's all this stuff that we keep getting in the way of our love and our caring and compassion and concern for each other?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what she's saying to me, Sandy, is yeah, yeah. She says, the benefits of death. You wrote a book about it called Awakened by Death. And I said, I know, I'm testing Sandy out here. But she says, death has so many ramifications. It makes you not take people for granted. It makes
Right.
you reassess your life differently. It makes you
Yep.
look into your own soul. It makes you, as you said, it makes you stop being so selfishly focused and start thinking about the people around you. Um, I've got the whole gang here at the moment, all wanting to chime in, about
About death.
the beauty and the healing and the opportunity for spiritual awakening through
Right.
the death experience. It's like when you go to a funeral or a celebration of life, there's so much love. It's like you put all your petty grievances behind you, and there's so much love and connection that is created. Even though there is sadness and grieving, there's so much love and connection that is created through this experience. And yeah, they're all saying that the opportunity that people have who are still physically incarnated, who are still left behind, is huge. But again, they're reminding me that free will, you can stay in the tragedy and feel the loss and feel the pain of that, or you can change your life. You can look deeper into your own soul and change your life.
And I keep hearing that they say, when you're saying that everybody comes together at a celebration of life and everybody's loving and caring and concerned, for 5 minutes. But when a tragedy like this happens, it lasts longer. The
Right.
impact is stronger. And
Yeah.
as tragic as it is, it takes that kind of horrific tragedy for people to make it last longer than that 5 minutes that they feel the the gratitude for their life still and the gratitude for love. And so all of them are telling me, this was in our collective loss.
Mhm.
We moved a nation, we moved a globe to
Yeah.
feel. And if you have to leave your loved ones behind, the fact that you can make this big of an impact is so hard as a human to keep saying this stuff. But if you have to leave your family behind, then if you can do it in a way that leaves an impact, at least you'll know that it wasn't just for 5 seconds that you made the impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. How you doing? You hanging in there, darling?
Oh
You
yeah,
all right?
yeah,
You got a
yeah,
lot of support there. You got a lot of support. We got a big crowd here in spirit. Yeah, we
yeah.
got a big crowd. Because Sandy had a busy day today. It's evening for her. It's morning for me in Australia. I said, "How you going?" She's like, she's all in the busyness of the day, and then coming home and throwing some food in her mouth and getting ready to do this. And I said, "Let's just
All
calm
right.
down. Let's just center. Let's just focus." And as soon as I did that, I saw the crowd that were waiting to do this. I'm like, "Whoa! Look at all you guys waiting to do this," which made me cry, burst into tears. Because I was in my head thinking, right, we've got to do this, decisions, how we're going to do this and all. And then as soon as I tune in, okay, so I want to say thanks to Ash. Beautiful. Thank you, Ash. Does she have
Yes.
anything else to say before we move on to somebody else?
She says that she knows that the people in her baby girl's life will know the right time, and she'll help direct the right time so that baby can understand. But she says, I get to say one more time, I love you, my sweetheart.
Oh. One more time. She'll say it a million times.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so there's another young girl. I probably won't do everyone today, but there's another young girl called Dawn Singleton who was killed. Does she want to step forward? Talk to us.
So I don't know any of the names, but there's a girl stepping forward who said, I don't know if it's Dawn, but this is a person that's jumped ahead of the
Okay.
line, and she said that in fact, she says, please don't say my name, because what she's going to say might be hard if somebody connects. She says that she was a very popular girl who didn't connect well with every human that she says I was she goes, I wasn't a mean girl, but I was a you're not in my circle girl. She said I didn't do anything like horrific to anybody. You know, I wasn't, I didn't torment people or anything, but I also was like, they're not mine. They're not with us. Just ignore them. And she said, it, she says it was a wake up call. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty big wake up call. And she's
Yeah.
like, you're telling me. She said, but when I saw my life in my life review, I was like, wow. And she said, I still understand that. So free will is free will unless and your soul contract is your soul contract, and you have certain exits unless someone else's free will interrupts that. And so her exit plan was she didn't get to her exits because his free will stopped hers. And she understands that, and she understands that she's hoping that her friends understand that um mental illness, and it's not she's not even fixating on the mental illness, she's fixating on the um we don't have to be so selective in who we accept, that we should be more open. It doesn't mean we're gonna, have to be best buds with every person, but human kindness is very important. And she said
Interesting.
my group was kind of sometimes short on that.
Yeah,
And
more
so,
inclusive, less
yeah,
judgmental, more inclusive.
yes.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, has she got anything else to say? Even though it wasn't maybe not an exit plan, but free will interrupted and her life was
Right.
cut short.
Yeah.
From
And
that perspective, is she holding bitterness about that, or is she cool with it?
she said, like for for a flash, she was like, wow, so unfair. But it all just becomes fine. It's
Yeah,
all, it's just so peace and love.
yeah.
And, um, you know, she's like, I, for a flash, and then I saw him in the street and we connected on the street. I think that's funny. But they saw each other, and when their souls met up, she held no ill will against them.
Okay,
And
this
that's
was a
gonna be
question.
hard for some people.
You're reading my
Go ahead.
mind because this is a question that came through. How do they feel about the killer now? That's a question that came
Yeah.
through, but you're already answering it when you saw him in
Yeah.
the street. So in the street on the other side, in
Yeah. Yeah.
their afterlife
Yeah.
experience. Mhm.
She said, and what's funny is when I did meet up with him, I went, wow, I'm not mad. I'm not like, there's no, oh. And then she said, I heard someone say, that's heaven. That's peace.
Mhm.
That you can let go of all the anger, and you can
Mhm.
let go of all the bitterness. And I'm talking to her going, are you serious? And she's like, I know. She goes, if my human me had known this, I'd yell like, wow. She said,
Okay.
I'd be totally different.
Yeah. So, what they're showing me is that there's a lot of people holding that bitterness
On this side.
on this side.
Yeah.
On this side. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
senseless nature of the killings.
Sure. Sure.
And
We're human and it was ridiculous.
yeah, it was human and were ridiculous. And what does she want to say to those people who are angry and upset and feel like it's unfair and are hating the killer? You know, you can't kill somebody who's dead, so there's no
Right.
revenge that can happen when someone's dead.
Right.
You can't go out
Um,
and start stabbing people yourself. That's not going to help. You know, where does that anger and bitterness and unfairness go? Like, from her perspective, what is the message she
she's
wants?
saying, you can turn that energy and that anger into a positive thing if you refocus your energy not on the anger of what was taken away, but on sending out sending out love to those affected by it. So instead of fixating your anger and hatred on the killer, then send love, compassion, and peace, and wishes for um con- consolation to the families of all the people that lost stuff, because that's what the families need. The anger that you felt towards the killer, the attacker, um that does nobody any good. And all it does is hinder everyone from helping those who need more love, more compassion, more understanding. And so it's like your show. Accentuate the positive. Pay attention to the good you can put out instead of holding on to the anger, because the angrier you turn, one of the reasons he did this is because he got so angry he
Agree.
couldn't control it. And so if you let that fester in you, you may not go out, please God, may not go out and stab someone, but what bitterness you put into the world is just gonna not help anything.
They're saying an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, which was a Gandhi quote. But
Right,
yeah, like taking on the same energy that he did, because he did that, that doesn't help anybody. Yeah, focusing on the connection and the love that was created and the healing. And yeah, focusing on the healing. How can you heal yourself? How can you heal others? How can you help yourself? How can you help others? That's really the biggest question. Not how can you get revenge, but
right,
how can you
right.
turn the negative into something extremely important
And
extremely
all the
healing.
people
And
who are I'm sorry, all the people who are angry about it, um, you may never meet those families of the people affected directly, but if you send them love and you send out that I pray for them, I hope for them, I send them good vibes, however you want to word it, but you send love their way. In that way, your souls do accept that, their souls do find that. They find some comfort, some solace in that. And so therefore, um, fix what you can by sending love. And I know it sounds like so out there and everything, but honestly, if this guy hadn't been so angry, it wouldn't have happened.
yeah,
So focus on the good you can do instead of the anger that you can hold on to.
terrific. Okay, I want to thank Dawn. I mean, even though, like she said, don't say my name. Sorry, cat's out of the bag.
And I don't know if that was Dawn. All I know is that was the woman that stepped forward that wanted to make sure her message was heard.
Okay. Is anyone else stepping forward? I could give you some names, but is anyone else in the group stepping forward?
The man that had the soul contract with him, he's
Okay.
here,
Okay.
and
Because yep. All right.
go ahead.
Well, because I
He
was
just
going to say, if they don't, I'm going to go with the man. So
okay.
yeah, because I saw him
Um,
step forward too. Yeah, go on.
and
Mhm.
he says he kind of feels he kind of at first felt guilt by association because they had that soul contract, and I feel like their paths in life had crossed at some point, and it but not in a way that like either of them recognized till they crossed over. Like I don't know if they played on a team or whatever they did. I don't know what they did, but he said he had guilt by association because if he had been the first one he met, maybe it would have only ended with him. But he said his spirit team, when he got to that side, made him understand that no, you picked it, but you never know how it's going to play out. Yes, your contract was that you two would go out together, would leave the earth together, but you didn't say ultimately, I want a whole bunch of people to be stabbed with me and all that. They said, so they released him of all guilt. And he said that his family, I want to say his wife has come to an understanding, and he's not giving me his name. But she believes that he went out a hero. I don't know if that means that he protected someone else or he went to interfere. And so she understands that he went out in a way that he could be proud of. And so he did what he could to minimize the damage. And they told his spirit team when he got to that side, when he looked at the life review, he was expecting to feel this guilt because he didn't do something more. I think he thought he should have interacted sooner, but they showed him that he did everything he could to make it as to lessen the impact. He actually went down to protecting people.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, as I said, Sandy doesn't know the news, but the man that was killed was a security guard, and he did do exactly that.
Okay.
He went. He saw the guy with the knife, and he ran towards him to try and stop it. And yeah, he was killed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Someone is coming through right now saying, I want to point something out to you. And I don't know who it is, but the statement is, everybody worries about gun violence. And he says, I'm telling you this because you're in America. He said, look, violence is violence, no matter what form it takes. Violence is violence. And we need to not worry. Oh, wow, this is getting kind of political. Not really. But he's saying we don't need to worry about like gun control or whatever. We need to worry about human kindness to each other, worry about taking care of the situation before they have a gun in their hand, a knife in their hand, a bat. It doesn't matter what implement is used to cause the violence. It matters what causes the person to be violent. And that's what we need to focus on, healing that. And so this man is clearly stating that the message he wants to present is take care of the people before it gets to the point that they need to find a way to be violent. And that, he said, that's one of the lessons we should all learn. It's not the way the violence is committed. It's why a person felt the need for violence. We need to heal the people. And then we won't have to worry how many bats, knives, guns are in existence, because no one will feel the need to lash out like that. And he says, and we're talking about a perfect world. I understand that. But he said, if you can save one person from a lifetime of mental illness by taking steps to help them, that's one less incident.
So what was the, spiritual contract that he had with Joel? Because you said at the beginning that Joel said he had a spiritual contract with someone that they would go out together. Because, in life, they were strangers. And,
right.
Yeah.
He said it all has to do with, it goes kind of deep. It all has to do with karmic healing and full circle, that in a past lifetime, in a different energy space, is what he's saying, in a different energy space, they fought and battled each other, and there was just this constant ongoing in different energy spaces and different times and different places where they either battled together or they fought each other. And it always was, one was left grieving the other in whatever aspect it was, either guilt because one had died at their hand or whatever. In this way, they decided to, it was he goes mano a mano. So it was literally hand-to-hand combat if it was a security guard, correct? So that's what he said. We decided to, we're hoping that this time we can, by going out together, we don't have this constant conflict of these lifetimes, these experiences of conflict. And
Interesting.
he wanted the hero, the man that was hero, I would say that's a security guard. He I feel like in a lifetime he felt like he was a coward at one point in one of these events, and this was his opportunity that Joel gave him to, I don't know, level the it sounds terrible to say that, level the playing field. More let even karmic
Yeah.
energies.
His name was Fazar Tahir, and yeah, he looked like he might have been Muslim. What does he say? Is he Muslim? Was he Muslim?
Middle Eastern is how he wants to be described.
Okay.
Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
Middle Eastern roots. And he says he died an honorable death, which makes up for times that were not always.
Interesting. Has he got anything else? What is he doing on the other side? Is he going to come back and do it all over again, or what's he doing on the other side?
He wants to come back and be a person who prevents it getting that far.
Yeah,
he's not sure what kind of, he's like, I don't want, he goes, I don't want to be a therapist, but I want to be somebody.
Fair enough.
He's like, no, I don't want to be a therapist, but he goes, but I do want to be someone who adds to the kindness of mankind, as opposed to this constant battling that he's done in many different spaces and energies and times. He wants to be a man of peace.
Nice.
He says, or a woman of peace. I'm okay with that too.
A man or a woman
of peace. Just a person of peace is what he wants to be.
He wants to bring peace to the world.
And he's very serious. He's very serious about that. He says there's so much war, whether it's personal conflicts or worldwide conflicts. He goes, I'd like to be a person who helps bring peace to the world.
Wow.
That's
I can really
beautiful.
see that. Yeah, I can really see that. That's beautiful. Has he got anything else he wants to say to us before we go?
He just says, thank you for the opportunity of being able to reach out. And
yeah.
And he says I did. He said, I was very proud. He said, I don't know if, I'll just say what he says. He says, it made me very proud and humbled to hear that I had helped save other people. He said, it was instinct in this lifetime. It was my instinct to do that because I thought, he goes, he goes, when you're going to be a mall security cop, you're like, whatever.
It was his first, it was his first day on the job, apparently. Yeah. First day
my God.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense for having that karmic leveling. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he said, we thought it was a pretty mundane kind of safe job. He said it, but
absolutely, security guard in a shopping center. You wouldn't think you'd go to work the first day and that would happen. Well, things like this never happen in Australia, I have to say. They just don't happen. They don't happen specifically in the area I live in. Like, Australia is a really safe place. So it was huge news. Like, it was huge news here. And the mainstream media, they just love it, don't they? They just replay the images over and over again, and they just exaggerate and accentuate the tragedy and the get that shot of that person crying, that person's in grief. Like, they just want to just pump out the drama. Yeah, so I thought in our small way today, we would pump out some love around a situation that was so traumatic. And we're going to go to, because there's been another traumatic situation in the States with the Trump assassination, so we're going to touch on that today as well. But thank you to what's his name? Faraz, Faraz, Faraz. He's laughing. He's laughing at me. He's laughing at me trying to pronounce my name.
Yes,
he doesn't really
he's
know
like,
what
good luck.
Good luck.
He says,
He says, "Doesn't really matter what you call me. That was my name, there."
yeah, exactly.
He's
Um,
laughing at me trying
they
to
all
pronounce
are
his name.
reaching out and saying thank you for um, spreading a little love and understanding about the situation.
Is anyone of that group one of, because there's more people there, but does anyone else want to
Um,
reach out? Really?
I think they're all like, it's so funny. It's like they're all together and they've formed this family.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a unit. And they're just grateful for the opportunity to
Okay.
be remembered.
So there is someone that wants to speak. Her name is, okay, I'm going to butcher your name too. Pikria Darshina. She was a 55 woman,
The older woman.
older woman.
Yeah. I say that when I'm nearing on 60, but she was
I
the
know.
older woman out of the group. So, because I heard somebody say, "Let the older woman speak," and but when you said 55, I'm like, "No, that's not
Yeah,
old." She's like, "Yes,
yeah,
I am." Just kidding.
yeah.
Um, okay. Um, she's more. Um, she's not angry. She's she just regrets. I feel like there was a disagreement with someone before right shortly before this happened,
Okay.
and she wants them to know that it's it's nothing. She's sorry. She doesn't want them to hold any regret or any um guilt or anything like that. She's like, please, please let it be. It was just a dumb misunderstanding, and I ask for forgiveness for my part of it, and you have no need to ask for forgiveness. It's done.
Nice. Yeah.
That's her biggest message, and she said,
Is, yeah.
hopefully it'll get to the right person. She doesn't want to bring it up who it is, but
Yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling that. Yeah, there was, something that left unfinished business before she passed.
mhm.
And they're regretting that.
And she
Uh
says, don't waste the time. Don't waste the time on regret.
mhm. Well, if that person, if the guides, okay, interesting. They said they'll make sure they get this message either through this conversation or through in another way.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel
Okay.
like there was a woman that she was trying to get the message to.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. They said, "You're not the only people talking about this in this way." And I said, "Well, that's nice to know
Good.
because I feel like
Good.
we're the only people talking about it, but we're not. We're not."
Good.
And that's nice to know. Yeah. Oh, thank you to the Bondi Junction Group and blessings and honor to all of you who made the decision to exit the matrix at that time and to be a part of the healing of planet Earth. Because although it looks like tragedy, it's actually part of the healing. Yeah,
It's
they're
hard to
saying
keep
thank you.
remembering that in your human space, but yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they are grateful. They are very grateful and and pleased. Just very and they're like actually like, oh, that went really well. That went well.
oh yeah. I stopped talking because I was chatting in spirit, and then I realized
Sorry,
that I'm not talking physically. I'm like, oh, I'm not talking. Okay.
I'm so sorry. You're fine. You can have your
Oh,
conversation.
all right. So we're going to move on to the Trump assassination. And there was a man killed during that. There's a couple of people injured who were apparently quite serious in hospital. But Sandy and I had a chat the other day about this, and we were talking to him, and so I wanted to repeat this conversation, on the show. So his name is, and again, they've all got names that I'm going to butcher, but Cory Comparator. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
He goes, it's close. It's all right. It's all right.
He's shaking his head like
Yeah,
this,
he's
Matt.
just like, just
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well,
gonna
it's
be
funny.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
So
said, "You how many reporters have butchered it already, so it's okay."
he was a 50, I think you're about 50-year-old man, and he had children that were all there. And what does he want to say, Sandy? Say through you.
Okay, well, when he first came through, one of the first things he said is, "I have really great hair now." And I hadn't seen a picture. And Karin actually showed me the picture, and he was bald, and he'd been bald a lot of his adult life. And he's like, "But it's good now." So
That's funny.
he's he's got to have been the I will tell you, he is a big personality. He's got a lot of people love joking around with him.
Yeah.
He said, "Of course, I was
He's
fun."
funny. He's funny
Yeah,
and fun. He's
yeah,
such a great guy. We were chatting to him the other day, and he was joking with us. And I mean, it's so interesting because the tragedy, it's just happened. Like it's like brand new. So we're all still in shock and tragedy, but
right.
he's not at all. He's laughing and joking like he's at a party. He's like got this big personality. He doesn't seem upset about it at all. But anyway, please go on. Why did he exit the Matrix so soon? Like, what was the reason for his tragic, as we see it from our perspective from this side, his tragic demise so young and leaving behind a family?
Well, okay. So he says that last week when we talked about it at first, he had said that one of the things was is why not go out in a he told me go out if you're going to go out you might as well go out in a bang, which is not, and he said didn't mean the pun, but no pun intended. But he says that having reflected, he does have a less silly comment, and his statement is um he said he was doing what he wanted. I mean, like, he was in a space where he wanted to raise kids that were actively participating in life, in the choices of the world they lived in, and taking a stand for what they believed in. And as everyone knows, it's a very heated. Anything with Trump has to be heated, and so taking them to this event was a way of showing them. He let them speak, wanted them to see so they could make up their own minds instead of listening to the media and the all the hype and all that. And he was literally making a stand for a better community by wanting his children to be informed. Now, having said all that, it wasn't his greatest joy to leave, but um, one of the things he told us last week was that you can talk to your kids till they're blue in their face and just like, dad, okay, dad, yeah, we get it, we get it, we get it. Um, but really not having any more options, the deal is that he believes that a message coming from him now will have a far greater impact in one way or the other than if he could keep saying it to him word for word every night. But one of the reasons he went out is it was the way he lived his life, larger than life, bigger than, not your everyday Joe. He was a firefighter, and I feel like firefighters are made of different stuff. They are, they're guardians. They choose to be guardians, and he went down guarding his family. And he said, I guarded strangers every time I went out on a job. I would gladly go out guarding my family.
Beautiful. And I guess if he's got a message for his family, what would that be?
Just pure love, and be watching for the signs because I'm not leaving you anytime soon. He says they'll he actually says that they've already seen signs that he's around. He's
Okay.
already pulled some. He's like,
Pranks,
yeah, yeah, but not mean, and he doesn't want anybody to think,
like
they're going crazy.
moving stuff and flickering
Yeah,
lights and sort
yeah.
of stuff like that.
I feel like he changed the channel at one point. He changed the
Okay.
channel, and they're like, "What was that?" And I think they realized it was dad, but they're still in that so close that they're like, "What?" So he just wants them to know that he's not finished with them yet. In fact, he's just begun. He sends them all the love and protection that he can give, and he'll offer guidance. All they have to do is say "Dad," and he'll be right by them.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day when we were chatting with him, again, from this perspective, we perceive loss. We perceive loss through separation. You are no longer in my life anymore. But what they say from the other side is, I'm always in your life. I'm just in your life
just beginning.
in a different way. But you can
Right.
still have my counsel. You can still have connection with me. And this is the opportunity that death gives us, is that when you don't believe in life after death, or you don't believe in psychic ability, or you don't believe in speaking to spirit, you start looking at that differently when it gets so personal. And that was the message of Awakened by Death, really, is that death can be an amazing awakening, a spiritual awakening, a consciousness expanding experience when you start to reach out and start to want to communicate to loved ones in spirit. And then when you do, you can also connect with your own inner being, your own inner spiritual team, and have that connection with your higher self or your soul family. It ultimately leads to that, and receive that counsel and that wisdom within, instead of always looking outside yourself.
Right.
Okay.
When,
So he's nodding
ahead.
his head, and he's saying exactly that. Listen to your gut. He said, I told my kids this many times, like, listen to the intelligence within, instead of like looking to others for approval, and approval from your peers, approval from your teachers, and you don't need approval from outside yourself. You just need to go inside yourself and listen to you. He was a very wise man.
Yeah.
He's laughing and he's saying, was? Okay. He's a very wise man.
Exactly. He said one of the things that he told his kids always was, look, if I didn't follow my gut instinct, I wouldn't have made it through so many different fires, and I wouldn't have made it through so many situations. And they're like, okay, Dad, we get it. And he's like, this time they will. And he said he's not saying they're bad kids in any way, shape, or form. They're great kids. He goes, what would you expect of my children? He's so funny. I love him. But he says, this way,
healthy ego.
Yeah. He's like, but this way when they hear me and they hear that gut instinct, and they'll know, oh yeah, Dad always said. And he goes, it'll be what'll lead them to safety.
Yeah. What about his wife?
Sorry, babe. Sorry, babe. I left you with a bunch of teenagers, and he's like, I'm just gonna. He's like, it's gonna be, but you're strong. I know you are. You're strong enough to get through. I wouldn't have left you if I didn't think you could do it.
She's a bit of a mess at the moment.
Yeah.
He's okay. She's a lot of mess at the moment. She's not. The kids are coping with it better than she is. Yeah, sorry, go on. What's the message he has for her?
He wants her to dig deep, lean on her inner instincts, and understand that she has it. She has it within her. Right now, it's just like with everybody in that first gut reaction to loss. You're like, oh my God, what do I do? And she's feeling a responsibility of taking care of those kids all by herself. And what she doesn't realize is she's going to have a lot of people that she can rely on. And she's going to, and he's saying his brotherhood, I would assume, of firefighters will be mentors, will be helpful for him. And she can lean on them. And he just wants her to know, sit in silence, recenter, regroup, and you've got this. You can do this, and I'll help in any way I can, and I will help.
He's saying that the lesson for her is that is to find her own strength, inner strength, and independence. Even though you're saying there's going to be a lot of support from his brotherhood and everything, and there is a lot of support. Initially, when someone dies, there's a stack of support, but then life goes on.
It peters away, It
peters away. And what he's saying is that this is an opportunity to find her own independence, her own inner strength, because she relied on him a lot for that support and strength. And with him being out of the picture, I mean, she can marry somebody else and put all her eggs in his basket, but she has an opportunity to find it within. To find her independence, stand on her own 2 feet, find her own inner strength and wisdom. Yeah, he said what?
he said, someday down the line, there'll be very few that can replace me. You don't have to replace me, but you can get close. He said, but before you do that, find your own inner strength, because you have it. You
Yeah.
just, he said, so he's saying, so it was great to be the one you could lean on. He said, but what I didn't realize is that kind of shortchanged you in knowing what you could do. And he
Yeah.
said, and now's your opportunity to learn that,
Yeah,
to
that was
rediscover your strength.
yeah, that was the soul contract between them and him leaving so young. You know, some people may say 50 is not young. It's young to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All righty.
young.
He's a hoot. He's fantastic, this
He
guy.
is. He's lovely.
Just great. He's thanking us. Does he have anything else he wants to say?
I was just gonna say, he says thanks, and he goes, I appreciate you understanding how wonderful I am. He's very funny. I surely hope that one of his things is, he goes, please don't think about the harshness. Don't think of how he's worried that the way he looked is going to haunt his wife, and he wants her to stop worrying about that, and he wants her to remember how handsome and virile he was in real life. And he's like, and now remember, I got a full head of hair. When I greet you many, many years from now, you will not recognize me. You'll go, oh, I remember him. Oh, I remember him.
Thick
He's
black hair.
funny. Yeah, dark, thick hair.
Mm.
Yeah, and but his big thing is he says he doesn't want her to remember the tragedy. He wants her to live in the memories of the fun, the joy, the strength, that the moments together that gave her the strength that she didn't realize she was kind of storing up, and now it's time to pull those out and be your own man, woman. And he is laughing. He's like, he said, I always told somebody, man up. And he's like, no, I'm telling her, man up.
Wow. So that's the message. Thanks, Corey.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Yeah, he's acknowledging. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Thomas Matthew Crooks, who has been the young man who was identified as the shooter.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to mental illness. He says, so he says that he was led astray. It was totally in his, like, I don't know what happened, but I feel like there was someone, he doesn't know who it was, or he didn't when he was here. I don't know if do you know now? He says he knows everything that was. Let me start at the beginning. He says that he met someone. I don't know if it was online. I'm going to bet you in this day and age. Yeah, okay. He says, and you go into these chat rooms where you can just be vicious and spout all this stuff, and there are these predators who search for that person who's on that edge. They can almost profile them to know, this is a good one to pick up. This is a good one to we could incite this one to do what we want. It's almost like they pick their suckers. They and he says, I was picked from many people who were angry about this and that. And he said, he said, I want to say I was groomed to, I was incited to do this kind of stuff. He says, now, ultimately, they did not take my free will. They did not hold a gun to my head. I was more than happy to do this. I felt that I was saving the world from from people making this horrible choice.
Yeah.
And he said, but I was not led down that path all by myself.
Mm-hmm. He's telling me that all his life he knew he was here to do something big.
Right.
And he would talk about that and people would think that he was just crazy.
They would laugh at him. Yeah.
And laugh at him. Yeah, just laugh at him. But he knew, and talking to the guides, like the spiritual team, that this was a sacred contract. And he was a part of changing the trajectory of history
Right.
And he's saying to me that from his human understanding, he got it wrong, but from that side, he understands. But from his human understanding, killing somebody and taking out the president is like doing something big. But it was a bigger story than that. The fact that he missed, like just the whole thing is going to have huge ramifications that we're going to see unfold in the next few months, right?
Well, it's going to change
Yeah.
Was destined for something big. Unfortunately, it was something tragically big. But this situation is going to be the catalyst that will change the way a lot of things are done.
Yeah.
And as much as you can say that'll be for the better, it
doesn't
isn't in
look
this
like it at the moment. Yeah.
but it should make things better in the long run. That is no consolation for Corey's family and the others that were affected by it. But it is going to make a change. It will be a catalyst for an improvement.
It's really interesting. What I'm seeing is, from our perspective, when we think about mental illness and ego and people wanting to be better than others, and it just looks all wrong. But what they're showing me is that his, connection to his ego and trying to prove other people wrong, and I'll show you sort of energy that he had, which seems like wrong when we look at it from it all had a part in playing out this thing that happened. Yeah, it's just it's really weird. It's hard for me to explain what I'm seeing, but it was all perfect, basically.
Right.
It was all scripted. Let me say scripted rather than perfect. It was all part of the scriptedness of how life can go. Using his ego, feeling not enough and wanting to show people.
Right.
His mindset's quite similar to the dude that with the Bondi Junction, the Joel. Yeah, Joel. I've forgotten his name. Yeah, but I get a sense of it's different to Joel. This was just all scripted.
It was all played out. Everything fell perfectly into place. It was like the perfect storm. That's what I was trying to
storm. The perfect storm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is really interesting. Anyway, anything he wants to say to the man that, like, how are he and Corey on the other side? Are they hating each other, loving each other? Like,
they're not hating each other. There's acceptance. There's a part of Corey that's kind of like, I understand we were all part of the bigger plan.
Yeah.
But man, I wish it hadn't happened when it did. And but they're as hard as it is for a human mind to understand, they're okay with each other.
Oh yeah,
they understand that they all played their part.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that hates to say that because it's so hard to understand, but they're okay with each other.
Let me ask you, when he first left his body, because like it takes a little while. We're talking in time, even though the spirit side is not under the same time restraints that we are. But there is a period of time where you shake off like the thought forms, the mental attitude that you have when you're a human, and you return to a broader perspective, seeing from a loving space. Like, how did that look for him? Like, what happened when he first? Sorry, before I finish answering the question, he starts showing me. So when he first died, what happened when he was shot? What did his soul do?
Corey, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Crooks guy, Matthew.
Okay.
Thomas.
Well, so from the very first thing that he felt was surprise. He was very surprised. He didn't expect it. He thought from where he was, he'd be okay to get out and get away. And so he's surprised. And there was this momentary like shock where he's like, oh, wait, oh. And then he went, and there was this moment of I did it. I did something big. I did it. I was destined for something big. And then slowly but surely it dawned on him that while he was destined for something big, it wasn't something great. And so all of a sudden, he had that moment of that, still trapped in his human thoughts, or still caught up in his human thoughts. It was, I did it. I did what I was supposed to. And wow, I didn't think it was going to end this way. I thought was enough out of he felt there was a secure area that he was far enough out of that he could get away. And so he was startled and surprised. But then there was that moment of, but I did it. I did it. And then it was like, oh, but boy, did I do it. And then he was, all of a sudden, everything started coming in from the perspective. And then he's like, well, okay, I did it. But that was my end game. I don't, end game doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. It was what I was destined to do. That big thing. He goes, I had always hoped that when I was going to do something big, it would be something great. And
Yeah.
instead it was just something big.
Yeah.
And
He did. He
he
always
played
felt
a
destined
role.
to do something big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was
But
this kind of nerdy little guy at school, and he would sort of talk about it, and people would go like, "You
I'm going to
crazy?"
be great.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
they
be
used to, bully him.
Yeah.
What he showed me was that when he left his body, he watched, like he didn't sort of cross over to the other side straight away. He didn't like go, right, I'm out of here. He watched it all unfold. Like he was just really interested. He actually thought that he was going to get Trump, that he would kill Trump. He was
Yeah.
surprised he didn't. From
Right,
his ego perspective, from his soul's perspective, he understands now why and what the ramifications of that and what's unfolding. But he said that he was watching it all unfold from above, like just watching all the drama and the scenes and the people and he was just watching it all. He was watching it all. And he was kind of, from his ego perspective, remember this is his ego perspective, he was kind of like, look what I created, look what I've done.
Yeah.
He was,
Yeah.
he was like, I made this happen, all this chaos. He was
Right,
he was loving it. He was loving
was
it.
proud of it. Yeah, he was proud of it. It wasn't until it started to morph. I always say morph, but it's like they start morphing from the human side into the more spiritual side that he went, oh wow, I did. I look at, he's like, man, I did something big. And then he was like, oh, but I didn't do something great. I did something big. And yeah, but you're right. He said, he said, he, he said, he really did. Truly, he failed. But then he realized that, he said, my goal was to save the world from Trump, to save the United States from Trump. And he said, so I truly was like, I was excited about all the hubbub, but I looked and went, dang, I failed. I didn't do it. I didn't. I thought, but he said, but
I think
said
he
if you
actually did the opposite of what he set out to do.
Yes.
From
Yeah, he
his
said it
ego
kinda
perspective, from his soul's perspective,
Right.
he played his part perfectly.
Right,
But from
he
his
played his part
ego's
perfectly.
perspective, he actually did the opposite of what he set out
Yeah,
to do.
he made
Yeah.
sympathy and
Yeah.
and but being on that side, he gets it. He's like, okay, I did what I was supposed to. Now let's see what happens. And he does say, he goes, it's not, he said, it is when I tap into my human side that I go, okay, so I did something big. Now let's see what that brings about. And that's because of me. So there is that ego part that he can relate to. But ultimately when he had his life review, they're like, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. He thought that he goes, I thought I was going to be reamed for failing in multiple levels. And they said, you played your part. You did your part. And he said he was kind of surprised at that. And then he went, oh, well, then what they say, they really do mean that I played my part,
So how is he, what's he up to now? So he's left his body. He was a young 20-year-old man. He's left his body. What's he up to? What's his plans? If we can think of plans in the spirit side, we'll just talk in a linear fashion, because this is how our human minds understand this, even though it's
Right.
not linear over there. We'll just pretend that it is. Like, what's his plans now that he's left his body?
Okay, so his first thing is he's gonna take a minute and reassess, because what his soul contract was in this lifetime, he thought he knew how it would play out. And so he says, I'm going to make more thought out choices, because he said this lifetime I went, yes, I'm going to do something big. He goes, now I'm going to be thoughtful, more thoughtful in the way I pick something. So for right now, he's going to, what he says he's going to do is he's going to center, and then he's going to find his what his next mission he wants to be. And he says this time, when he goes the next time, he wants it to be something not necessarily big, but something great, whether it's small or big. He wants it to be great. So he wants it to be a plus, a plus on the positive side of life, as opposed to. And he says, I still believe that some of the stuff that came from this is going to be positive, not for the families but yes, for the family. He said it's so hard to bring the human mind and the spiritual thought process and make them work together, but they do.
Yeah,
But
they
he says it's just like, so the Bondi group and this group, they're together right now because they came together for tonight. And he says just like he goes, I don't think I'll be a therapist either. I think but he says he goes, I won't mind if next time if I do something great in my corner of the world. I don't have to be big. I just would like to do something good that affects the world in a good way, for the greater good. He says, and I understand that some of what happened will bring about some good changes, things that needed to happen. Even if it's 5 people go, wow, we've all gone crazy to where it's to this thing of anger, to hatred, and we need to stop that. He goes, so there was some good that'll come out of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he said, I would like to, if I'm a teacher that saves one kid from a life of ruin, that's great.
Yeah,
He goes,
yeah.
I just have to think a little smaller as opposed to more global than I was.
He's saying to me, Sandy, that he wants to work with people that feel ostracized, marginalized, downtrodden, judged, and to bring connection and kindness and less judgment to the world, because he felt so judged,
Right.
left out,
And I think that's why he
ostracized.
said teacher, because
Yeah,
his
he'll
teachers
come
had
back
an
as a
impact and
teacher.
they didn't help.
Yeah,
He didn't have a lot of good teachers that could have
yeah.
helped him overcome some.
He'll address that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's been a bit of a theme throughout tonight. The young girl from Bondi said that like she was kind of a bit exclusive of other people. She was in her little and she regrets that, like being not more inclusive, and Joel felt misunderstood and excluded from specifically from women. He felt like women didn't like him and he really wanted a girlfriend. So he put himself on a dating diet. He wanted that acceptance. So the big theme for tonight has been acceptance, hasn't it? Like it's about acceptance. Like how can we, everyone listening to this, how can you bring more acceptance and inclusiveness into the world? Oh, it's going to make me cry of these 2 tragedies. That's really the message to humanity, because the whole, Trump drama is that you love him or you hate him, but there's this huge judgment. Judgment is like he's the best and this guy's the worst. That's still judgment rather than
Right.
acceptance that both are doing, they're playing themselves out on the world stage, and it's all part of the evolution of humanity to bring people
Of the
together
soul.
in
Yeah.
the soul, to bring people together not in hatred and judgment but in acceptance and understanding. So
So
can you understand and accept someone that has a completely opposite opinion or stance on the world, political stance? Can you accept them? Thank you.
So years and years ago, I asked my mom, because we got into a conversation with my mom in spirit, and she used a cuss word, and I said, "Mom, how can you possibly be using a cuss word if you're in heaven, if you're on the other side?" And she said, "God doesn't care about the 4-letter words. He has bigger issues to deal with." And I said, "Okay, so speaking of that, what's the worst sin that can be committed? Murder, right?" And she said, "No." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Judgment."
Oh, wow.
And I
So
said,
this is
"How is."
this is this is talking to your mom in spirit, obviously.
Yes,
This
in
is talking to
spirit,
your
yeah.
mom in spirit. Yeah.
And so I said, "So how can judgment be worse than murder?" She said, "Because if you choose to murder someone, then you've judged that they are not worthy of being more important than what you want." And she
Wow.
said, "You judge
Yeah.
that their life is worthless." And she said, "It
Right.
all comes down to judgment." And I
Wow.
went, "Oh." And she said, "But you have to remember that for all the times you walk down the street and go, 'Wow, look at that outfit.'" She goes, "That's judgment too."
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
she said, "And the other thing is she said, when you say, 'Wow, that person is really a great person,' that also is judgment." And I went,
Yeah.
So we just can't think. And she said, no, you just can't judge. And I'm like, I think that has been, since those words were said to me, that is the hardest thing to figure because I mean, you go, yeah, I like this shirt. Oh, I mean, everything's judgment. You
Yeah.
just have to put it into, you got to say you're still a human having a human experience. You're going to do your best to meet that standard, but
Yeah.
you can't drive yourself crazy. You
Yeah.
know, do your best. And if you let everybody be,
Yeah. Look, judgment,
yeah,
it only occurs when you pick something, but you make the other thing wrong.
right,
Like, you can have personal preference, like, do I want coffee or tea? It's like, I don't
right,
hate coffee, so therefore I'm having tea. It's just like, oh, I feel like that in this moment.
right,
So that's not judgment, it's just personal
right.
preference. So
Preference
there's a
isn't judgment, but yes,
preference is a so do I want to buy the pink shirt or the red shirt, or do I not want to buy a shirt, or like just personal preference? Yeah, judgment is when
right,
you make something else wrong. Like, I like this because I hate that. Yeah, I
right,
hate that
right,
because I like this. Yeah,
right.
that's judgment, but personal preference is something else. Oh, darling one, we're about to close. If you want to contact Sandy and get a reading, a personal reading, please do so. You can find her on her website or on her Facebook page. And what's your email, honey one?
Sandra Marie Medium at gmail.com.
Sandra Marie Medium at gmail.com. And you'll see her, you might see her around the place. Obviously, Sandra Marie is her working name, and you might see her around the place. Sandy Feltz is her married name. She kind of wanted to keep those separate, even though she's got a fabulous husband that totally gets, he lives with the psychics,
Definitely.
who's talking to dead people all the time. You know, he's so used to it. He's such a fabulous man. Shout out to Mike. And
Thank you.
also, if you want to contact me, I'm a teacher and a mentor. I don't do those sorts of readings where I talk to dead. That's not the work I do in the world, but I definitely, love to help
She's
people who
definitely
do
connected.
yeah, so you can contact me on my website, karenswain.com. Send me an email if you need some mentoring, or you want to learn about how to deliberately create your world, accentuate the positive, rather overcome your negative thoughts. That's the biggest thing I do with people, whether they're healers or not healers, is overcoming those limiting thoughts about themselves, right? Like we did that with you too, especially with your
Man.
mum.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah. Her mum
definitely
said,
with my mom.
can I share this with the public?
Sure,
That way,
sure.
yeah, her mum said something about, you can, when you're speaking to loved ones in spirit, because Sandy, like me, will be teaching people how to, tap in to their guides and to loved ones. It can be your human mind that you think that it's them speaking, but it can be your human mind. And when your mum said that in spirit, you got all sort of like, oh, I don't have a
Up in
stronger
my head.
connection because it's like I'm wanting to talk to her and it's just me making it up. And that
Right.
really sort of put you off that connection. But when we resolved that limiting thought, so your human mind does get in the way. You can come up with what you think is happening rather than what is really happening. But there's a feeling to it. There's always a feeling to it. When you're reaching for thought and you're not sure about it, that's your human mind searching. But when it comes to you like this and it feels clear and it feels good, that's guidance. There's a real distinction between guidance and you thinking. It's like if it's a struggle or you're reaching for it, like you're trying to find a memory, let me work this out, let me remember, that's your human mind. But when it just comes to you, it's like I said, I ask a question in my head and before I can get it out of they're showing me already. That's guidance coming to you. It's like I asked the question about what's his name, Thomas, leaving his body, and before I could even get it out, I've got this screen, like I'm looking at him above his body, looking at the whole scene, like I've got the whole scene happening in my head, and I'm like, that's why I kept stop talking. It's like I have to remember, speak it through your mouth. Yeah, that's guidance. It comes so quickly, doesn't it, Sandy? It comes so quickly.
I was just gonna say it's when you forget to worry about what you're saying,
Yeah, it's when you
that you go,
forget to
oh,
worry
that's from
about what.
them.
Yeah, that's from them. Thank you, darling one. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who was watching. We're going to do this live next week. So if you want to tune in and ask Sandy questions or ask me questions, come online and do it live, and we can speak to some of your loved ones and spirits and see what they've got to say, your loved ones or your guides. And we'll do this for a few weeks, and then I might invite some other mediums to come on and get Sandy up and running on her YouTube channel, and she can do this for you all without me. Right, Sandy?
Thank you all. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Big
Take care.
love.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.